Okay. Let's build a keyboard, I guess. That's enough screwing around. Been delaying doing this stream for a bunch of reasons. And because of that, I've, again, let everything pile up here at home. Parts piling up. And there's specs all over this from the last build that I did. So I got a, oh, I didn't even bring it over here. This is genius. So I got the parts for this Pearl 40 here, which I sort of wanted to hang on to how it was packed and show this, because I've had some really bad luck lately with group buys. I had one that went like a year and a half. That should have been way shorter. And then it showed up and it had like some defects and stuff. And then I have a current one, the XSplit, which I think a lot of people are in, that that still hasn't shown up, and God knows if it ever will. And it's just been a lot of that lately, feels like. So this buy went really smoothly and showed up earlier than I would have expected, and it was really well packed. So I just sort of wanted to show what this looked like when it arrived. Let's just put this in here. It's upside down. So it just, like, the level of detail, attention to detail here was so much higher than almost every other buy. This is the little guide he made here, which had all the kit contents. And this little packet that he included had cables and, open it. Sorry, it's probably a little loud. So, cables, 2 cables, all the screws and stuff that's needed. He even included a little screwdriver, which is pretty crazy, and a bunch of stickers. So that's cool. And then the board itself was really well packaged, which is pretty abnormal, honestly, for a group buy that I've seen, because a lot of times they're literally just thrown in, it's wrapped in saran wrap and thrown in a box with a little bit of foam around them. So it's nice to actually see somebody take the effort. The other person that I always buy from who does this level of quality is Zeal. All of Zeal's stuff always comes really well bubbled and packed, even when it's stuff that I wouldn't even have bothered with myself. He does a really good job of that. So here's my little PCB here. It's very pretty. Really nice. Okay, so let's just take all this stuff out of here. Make a giant mess. Here's the acrylic diffuser plate here. I like how it says peel here, so that people don't forget to take the back one off, which I'll do in a second. I'll try to do this a little bit away from the microphone since it's very loud. All right, so I went with the brass plate. It's very pretty. There's a brass plate. This is a 40% board, so small, obviously. Ooh, the weight is really heavy. And he wrapped this one in the Wall Street Journal. He's a learned man. Wow, this weight is really heavy. I did not expect it to be this heavy. For the size of this board, this is a very heavy weight. Now, I know I was one of the few people here who had an error in the plate. Yeah, you could actually see it well. First, you could see what happens with uncoated brass. Like, you get the fingerprints, which, yeah, it's going to be on the bottom anyway. But you can also see I was number 28, and he contacted me to say that the 28 was not printed or like stamped deep enough to see it, which is true. And I told him I didn't care, because I don't really care about the number, to be honest. It's never, it's the bottom of the board, first of all, so it's not like I'm gonna constantly be turning it over and looking at it. And everybody talks about M65, which has a really beautiful polished and coated brass weight, and I think it looks really nice, but I never look at it. I looked at it the one time, and then never again. So here's the top piece of the case. Really nice anodizing. Like, it looks very even. I don't see any damage at all. See a little bit of a lightness mark there, but honestly, unless you're buying from Apple, like, you're not gonna not get that stuff. A little bit of dirt on the front. I thought it was a scratch at first, but nope. Cool. It's really well done. And last but not least, the bottom piece here. So now I have a lot of junk next to my desk. All right. And there's the bottom part there. This one definitely has more noticeable marking in the anodization. I don't know if you can really see it on this camera because this camera's not great, but there's kind of two bands here. But again, it's the bottom, so I don't really care. So, you know, that, and then this guy dropped into here. Very tight fit, nice. Whew. Yeah, it makes a big difference. That weight is really heavy. These are really well, you know, these are nice cables too. I forgot this thing is USB-C, so I'm actually gonna have to use one of these temporarily because all my custom cables are not USB-C because nobody else really is using that. But I'm excited for people to switch to it because all my Mac and everything are USB-C, and I have to use an adapter for all of it. So I'm all for the switch to that, but currently most of them are not. So it looks like there's a little bit of, you know, there's some manufacturing scratches on the brass, and brass is hard. It's hard to not scratch it. I actually really like the, I'm not sure if this one is, it feels like it might be PVD coated. I don't know. I don't actually know what PVD is, but I know people are using that a lot lately. All right. Gear here. Let's see if I can peel off this other piece. It's actually harder than it looks because of hard to get a, there we go. All right. There we go. So I have this thing with 40% boards. I built a minivan and I really like the way it looks, but I have a really hard time typing on it. That is certainly going to be the case with this board. So because of that, I am not going to waste hole tights on it. I want to build a board, a good board with hole tights so that I can swap stuff around in the future. And I keep putting it off because I don't know, either the PCB that I get's not compatible or whatever. And then when I ordered them, I made a mistake and I ordered 150 hole tights thinking that'll cover me for 150 switches, but it's pretty dumb considering it takes 2 per switch. So I only have the equivalent of 75 switches worth. So if I use hole tights on this, I'd only have like 30 switches left, which is kind of pointless because I'm not going to build a 30% board, so I got to order more. And so we're just gonna build this thing as it is, and I'm gonna build it with BOX Jades, which are just heavier box white. And I love the box whites, and I actually really like. So I've been screwing around with all these different switches lately, trying to figure out what to build next. So I've got this is just it's actually like for lubing, but I've just been putting switches in to test. So I have some Telios over here, which are just linears. And then I've got the Zilents, which just came out here, which are tactile and have these silencing additions in them. These feel so good and they sound so good. So I'm definitely gonna use these for a board, but because this is a board that I'm not gonna put hole tights in, I know myself, and lately I have been way more into the box switches. So I'm gonna go with the BOX Jades because I love the way they sound and feel. The BOX Navies also sound good and feel good, but they're a little heavy for me. Once I got them and started screwing with them, they're basically the Jade but heavier. Spring is heavier, and they're a little too heavy for me. The Jades feel like the right halfway point between the whites and the navies. So I'm gonna do Jades. The one downside of these box switches is that their stems are crooked. Like in general, I didn't notice it at first until I built the second board, and then I started paying attention to the fact that all my switches have this tilt on them. Switch this to the close up here. So, you can see this here. You can kind of tell that the switches have like a skewing to them. They're not straight. And that annoys me, because if you look up at the Zeal switches, you can see all the keycaps are very perfectly aligned, but all of these ones are slightly skewed, like pitched down to the right by like maybe a half a millimeter. That drives me really crazy, because I love the way these feel, but I don't love the way keycaps sit on them. They're not quite lined up correctly. And this is a problem with all of the box switches. My whites do it. So actually, take this out. Maybe this is a good example of it. Like in practice, when you actually have a full board, it's not quite as noticeable because every single switch is tilted. But if you look at this one, you can see, if I can get the angle best for this, but it's very difficult to tell here. But you can tell in person that every single switch is tilted. Is like rotated 1 or a half a millimeter to the right. It's like 3 degrees tilted to the right, and that sucks. Hopefully that'll get resolved over time. But I love the way they feel so much that I'm just gonna go with it. So, a couple of things, which is I got to decide on the what I'm gonna split. So, split backspace, and whether or not I'm gonna split the space bar. I split the space bar on my minivan, and it's cool, but in practice, it's very hard to go from a split to a non-split. So what ends up happening is I don't type well at all on oh, you know what? I just realized something. Oh no, okay, this is mounted up there. Okay, yeah, I noticed in hindsight that I don't type well like that because none of my other boards are split. If I could split my space bar across all my boards, I get used to it. But because I don't, that's a problem. Because basically I go to any other board and I can't type on the 40 when I come back. So even though I'm losing the enter key, the return key, I think I might have to go with a full-size space bar because I just don't know if I can justify the loss of the usage. Like I think I'd use it better if I didn't split it. Let's see. Let's throw all this junk out of the way. All right. So, ridiculously, one of the things that I ended up with here on a raffle purchase was SA Calm Depths, which I never owned before, and then somebody said, hey, we've got a bunch of sets of them that we ran privately, and we're going to do a raffle to see, So I bought it. All right, I entered the raffle, and I got it. Which is cool, because this was a highly coveted set. I really like the colorway, so I think these are the caps I'm going to put on here. But I'm realizing it probably actually doesn't have coverage for these. So let's just check real quick, because I'm trying to decide how I'm going to lay this out, given the constraints of this. So one huge downside with a 40%, and specifically for me, is in my line of work, I write Swift code all day. 40% makes that super difficult. Not as difficult as it was with Objective-C code, because that's all brackets and such, but with Swift, even still, it's like there's only so much you can hide from a keyboard before you start to think like, wow, this is not really worth it. So let's just look and see real quick. If we did a full-size space bar. Do I even have... I'm betting I don't even have mods that would fit on these things. This keyboard may not be able to use column depths because I think these are... Well, okay. Oh god, am I gonna have to use Windows keys? I could call that control, even though that won't be control. See, one downside of getting a column depth set is that column depths was made so long ago that like there's absolutely no modern convenience for anything other than a Windows. I don't even think there's a meta key. That became the thing. Well, there's menu. That became the thing that everybody started doing. Was just using meta instead of win on the keys, which at least as a Mac user is not as offensive. Okay, so there's alt keys. So I could put, you know, I'll be honest. Okay, it doesn't look like it'll fit. I have to test this out. Okay, so there's one menu key. Oh, is column depths all uniform round 3? No. What's up with... I guess I'm realizing I don't know what the uniformity or the thing was on column depths, because I wouldn't have expected the row 4 to be that shape. So I guess I could, Is there really only... Okay, there's an alt. So I could do menu alt, and I could do alt here, but of course there's no second menu key. Of course there's not. Why is that? Why is that? I really don't want to put a Windows key there. That's not what I want at all. Also, these keys kind of look like they won't fit. These caps, I mean, but I guess we'll find out. Well, all right. This is actually starting to become... I'm less concerned about this and more concerned about just about every other aspect of this layout. Let's do that. Now, this is definitely not going to have a control key as a caps lock key, because why would it? I can't do tab. And I bet this doesn't have short shifts. You know, I'm realizing, okay, well, it does have a short left shift. Jeez. This is probably the worst possible set, actually, of everything I have to pick for this, because it's not gonna have anything that I need. Let's see, ZX, CV, BN, M. Let's just see what we can get out of this here. More worried about just about everything other than the alphas. The alphas will all work fine, but I just sort of want to place them to, let me actually just place a few here. So we're definitely have an alpha there. Let's see, Z, X, C, V, B, N, M, and then we've got 4 potential keys here. So the way that I type, I would rather have comma, period, slash, and function, because I don't use the shift key with my right hand. So that should be fine. I'm betting there's no function key, but I could, if one of these is shaped roughly the same, can't quite tell. Does that look like it's the same? Yes. Okay, so I could use that as just... Is this a... Let's look here. I'm actually realizing... Oh. So that's gonna have to be... I can't do that, okay. Okay. You know what? This would be a lot easier if I could see it on top of the board. It's just... Alright. Let's line this up and just see what our options are here. Because I actually didn't... It's been a while since I ordered this, so I didn't look at the layout image, but I'm betting this actually has to be a 1.25 and a 1. Yeah, it does. Okay. So that's difficult because there's definitely not a 1.25 shift here. You know what? I'm just gonna open the Pearl. You know what? Does this have pearlboards.com? Let's give that a shot. Pearlboards.com. Let's just see what the layout is here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it does have to be. Oh, okay, and that makes these make way more sense. Okay, so these are, wow. Column depths is it's not gonna work for this. So that's a 1.7, that's fine. 1.75, that's fine. But these are confusingly based on how this. Oh, it's laid out that way because if you do split spacebar, I see. Okay, so if I don't do split spacebar, it's a 625 space, and then it's a 1 and a 125. So that's odd. That's odd. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna make this. That's actually okay. That's difficult across the board, I'm realizing, because I don't have. There's not a lot of sets that have a good. Well, that's not true, actually. Like any of my GMK sets. All right, maybe this just can't be column depths. That sucks because I actually really like. I really like the colorway, but as I'm looking at this, I'm not gonna have anything that's gonna make this work for a 1 modifier. Okay. And if I do, well, I definitely couldn't use this with a split spacebar, so that's sort of irrelevant. And that's a 1.5 tab. What are these? Oh, those are 3, so I could actually put that there. Okay, so that could go there. And this is why I don't do 40s normally. It's too many compromises. It's too difficult. I have to use these Windows keys. Like, how gross is that? I don't want to use Windows keys. That's disgusting. Even if this was a Windows computer, I wouldn't want to use Windows keys. Well, that one's got damage on it too. Cool. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. So if that's like that, it's kind of odd. You're gonna kind of see the plate is strange. All right. Well, those Windows keys are gross, but I'm actually realizing. Okay. Just trying to think of how this would go, because over here I'm also gonna have to do a 1 and a 125. And I don't have a 125 shift. And I don't really want to do, because this is actually row 3. So if I put anything else there, it's going to be strange. Height-wise. So this set is just not going to work at all. I wonder if. I don't think there's any way around this. Just realizing this set's probably not going to work for just about anything because it's so outdated. It just isn't designed for this kind of thing. Okay. Well, that sucks. Jeez. A very large shift key instead, which I don't want at all. So I don't have what I need. I have what I don't need. Terrific. Terrific. 1.25 there. God, what could I even put there? I don't have anything that is sculpted to fit in that space. Like the only other key that would fit in that space technically would be I don't even have, oh, okay, I have a, so I could do, that's just such a waste. I don't type shift with my right finger, or my pinky. So I'd just be wasting that. Like that's, and on a 40, it's a real waste. It's a real waste. Okay, I have one other option. Well, that's not true. I have several other options. What if we did... This color might look nice with Oblivion, or it might look awful. I'm just gonna grab the board that has it on it. It's possible that putting gray caps, not gray board, yeah, that would look pretty crummy. All right, that's not gonna work. This could be the board that gets Yuri. I haven't used Yuri. I could use Yuri here, do a GMK build instead. Might look nice on that color. Ooh, actually, that might look really good. And Yuri, I've got coverage across the board. No pun intended, but. So we could do Yuri. You know what? Let's do Yuri. So then I can use a red cable. Once I get one made. All right, so if we're doing Yuri, I'm pretty sure I bought every single possible outcome there. So in that case, I think I'm good to do basically anything I want here. So it can be up to 44 keys here. We want to maximize keys. We could split the spacebar because of Yuri, because I have split spacebars with Yuri, I think. I'm gonna have to grab Yuri now. Actually, let's just look up what I bought. Because I think I have enough coverage on Yuri to do everything. The problem is once I split the spacebar, it becomes very difficult to use anything but a GMK set, basically. Which is fine. I love typing on GMK. I really like typing on SA. I'm like one of, I think, probably few people who actually enjoys typing on there. So I do have spacebars. I have the icon modifiers kit, and I have the Cyrillics kit. And I have the base kit. I should check. Should check if that contained what I needed, though. Pretty sure it does. Let's see. Base kit. The base kit does have R4 one use, and it does have an R3. Oh well, that's R4 anyway. So I could do an R4. I have a 1.25 shift, and I could put a function to the right of it. And then I bought the spacebars kit, which means I've got split spacebars. So I could do that, which means I could put my return key, make that return. Okay. So then we'll do alphas, period, comma, slash, and then the shift there. And then we'll split the backspace into one use. And here we've got a 1.5 slash pipe. The only question is, and if this is escape or tilde, which is, I use that primarily as tilde, what am I going to use for my function, for my layer key? I think what I'll end up doing actually is using this right shift as the layer key, because I don't use shift there as a shift key, so might as well just become layer. Okay, that could work. That means the bottom then becomes 1U, 1.25, 1.25, 2.25, 2.75, 1.25, and 1. So I'd get Control, Alt, Meta, Enter, Space, Meta, Alt, which is pretty much how I use. And then instead of Control here, we do Tab here. So there's only one downside there, which is that tab is an R3. And I'm not going to have an R3 tab. But I actually don't think that's a problem. It could still say Control or Caps Lock. It doesn't have to say tab. Right, because up here... Yeah, okay. I feel like I actually do have a... I feel like I have a modifier that might work for that. And actually, I have the icon modifiers kit, so yeah. May not matter at all. Okay. All right, so this will be a Yuri set then, or a Yuri board then. Okay, and get rid of all this. So we'll split the backspace, split the space bars. It's a keyboard I'm not going to type on anyway. I'll be honest with you. Long term, it'll be fun. I find these keyboards are really fun for like email, you know, messaging, that kind of stuff. They're just not so fun for writing Swift code or writing Python or most of the stuff that I actually writing random other stuff that I have to do during the day. That part is can be rough. So let's get rid of this. And let's actually build this thing. I spent more time talking about building it than I think I'll spend in total building it, honestly. Because it's 44 keys to solder, and I just have to... Oh, and actually, I'm realizing, so... I bet you I don't have stabilizers that are going to be appropriate for this, because now it's a 225 and a 275. I don't think I have a 275 stabilizer. Let me check. See, I have this other set. This is the other thing I was considering, but I actually want to use this for another board that I'm building, which is this Max Keys, I forget what this is called, Miami maybe? And this is SA, black with teal and black with pink. And I want to save this for the Cleep or Clippe, whatever. I'm just gonna call it a Cleep. No, I'm gonna call it a Clippe. No, I'm gonna call it the Clip. How about just Clip? Because who am I kidding? I don't know what it's called. So Clip. I'm saving that for the Clip build because the Clip is just this solid black piece of aluminum. And I like the idea of that being a black board with... It's got the... I have the black PVD coated brass plate. This is going to be a solid black build, but then with either the teal or the pink highlights, which I like the idea of. And that's the next thing I'm going to build. And then I also have... So that's this thing, which is this just enormous aluminum block that weighs like 4 pounds. I'm going to do that with a Centrac 60 PCB because it's just simple and quick. And that's got this PVD coated brass, like a really beautiful plate. And then one of the group buys that I've been in, or that I was in for over a year, and that was a disaster, finally shipped this, which is the ZZ96 board that I'm going to build for my sister. So that is a lot of soldering, good lord. And on hers, I'm going to do box whites because she was here over the Christmas holiday, and I had her test a bunch of switches, and she liked the box whites, so I'm going to have hers with the box whites and with GMK Plum, which I've just had sitting here for her, and I had a purple mauve or whatever custom cable built for that. So, all right, let's see what we got stabilizer-wise here. So I had 625s. What are our options here? Obviously, so 625 we don't need now. But I don't think these are gonna work, because how could they? Music sounded like it had a cat screaming in it. Oops, what am I doing? Let's just see if this will fit. I forget which revision of these made it impossible to put it in backward. Or maybe, yeah, I thought that was a revision. I think some of these are new and some of these are old, so I'm not sure. All right, let's see. I hope anybody who watches this doesn't get the impression that this is music I would normally listen to. I don't really have a choice, because if you want to have music in your stream, it has to be royalty free. There aren't a lot of options for that, and most of them have strange demands. So this NCS, or whatever I'm using, is all royalty free. It just requires you actually put a label in the stream of who, you know, the artist or whatever, but the music selection is awful. All right, let's see here. So, well, if these are, what are these? What are these? 225 and 275. Let's see. Help if I put them in the right way. I'm gonna have to unscrew them, aren't I? Let's see. I had to do a better job of also looking at the chat window. Sorry about that. Okay. There's a cat crying in that. It's ridiculous. Music is awful. Let's see. This way. In there. Okay, so that's not the one though, because if it's split, it would have to be this one. Okay. Oh, I'm realizing, of course this will work. These stabilizers, it doesn't matter. I have to grab the. Grab a couple of GMK keys and just confirm that I'm doing this correctly, because it's been a while since I've done a split space. Let's just see. So that means with this layout, I guess I'll. Oh, interesting. There's, yeah, okay. So this layout, I'll only need the 2 on the bottom at least. Okay, someone with cats in the home. It's really unpleasant to hear that sound. It makes me think I have to go do something and I don't want to deal with it. Okay. Hello, go in there. Thank you. Okay. So that would be, should be that one and this one, I think. Be those two. Have to be, right? Let's just throw a couple of switches in here. Make sure they're roughly in the right spot. All right. There. And where are you? There. Right, it would have to be. I don't see any other. And then we have 3 options, or we would have 3 here and 2 here. So the question is, does that fit on the plate? The plate's got some odd cutouts here. I'm actually not sure what I'm looking at plate cutout wise there. Like those notches are strange. Is this expecting? No, that's correct. All right, let's try putting it down flat. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually not sure what those cutouts are really gonna do for. Oh, I see. They're just making just enough space. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, for the wires, I see. All right. So I don't feel like I've normally. Yeah, I guess that's, of course, that's on every single one. It's just strange to see them in an open space like that. It's kind of throwing me off. Okay. Okay, so that should work, which means these just need to be band-aided. And then lubed, I suppose. Might as well, since I'm here. Let's band-aid them first. I feel like I cut out... Last time I was doing this, I cut out spare band-aid shapes, but then I misplaced them, of course, so I just gotta redo those. Thankfully, it only takes a second here. Let's just grab this guy, figure out roughly where that is. So all I do is just basically line this up with the screw edge here, and that edge, and then make a cut, and then I just cut it all the way across. Some people don't do this at all, which is totally fine. I hate the way stabilizers sound when they smack the PCB, so I just try anything I can to make it a little quieter is worth it. Get that flush there. That. Okay. And then gonna need 4 of them, so we'll just I'll just square off the edge. Basically just want to cover the spot that the stabilizer is gonna tap the PCB, so like that. Actually doesn't really even need to be that precise. More is okay, less is the problem, I suppose, since then it may hit the plastic, but that. And now you've got your, assuming it doesn't fly across the room, you've got your you could use, I don't know, I've never used non-fabric band-aids, like the hard plastic ones or the like thin plasticky feeling ones feel like they wouldn't be quite as absorbent of the sound. I just assumed I needed to use the fabricy one, so I always do. But yeah, it's possible that it wouldn't make a difference. We just also happen to have these on hand the very first time I had to band-aid mod, so it was convenient that I could use them, and then since then, when I've had to do this, I just always end up buying the same, whatever the store brand fabric band-aid is. Alright, so now we've got the 4 that we need. I'm just gonna grab some tweezers because it's... hard to do this without tweezers, I've found, because I have big thumbs. So where were we? We were here, and we were here. Okay, so let's start with that inner one. This is like the hardest part of building a keyboard, honestly, is just getting the damn backing tape off of a band-aid that you've cut. It's like hard to find an edge without damaging the band-aid. Come on, you bastard. wish there was a way to do this so that I guess I could have actually technically taken the back off and cut it, but then I'm always afraid I'm going to end up sticking the like band-aid to the scissors and ruining the adhesive before I have a chance to actually apply it. All right, there we go. Honestly, what this needs is I need to be doing this like with two different pairs of tweezers. Might actually be easier. God, that's annoying. It's like hard enough to put a band-aid on yourself when you're not trying to do something dumb like this. But this just, band-aids are not designed to have the edges cut off and then the back, there we go, the backing removed. Okay. Come on, you bastard. There's one. And so you just put it between the two spots and push it down. That's it. And maybe I'm gonna try to do it straight this time. Could help. It actually doesn't. I've noticed that precision doesn't really matter too much here, as long as it's just covering the where it's gonna smack down. You usually can't see it. You actually, I do have one board. I can't remember which one I made that you can see the band-aids on a little bit because the way the plate is shaped makes it visible. This board, it's a risk a little bit at least, because the plate is open here, but sound-wise, it makes a difference, and I really hate this. Stabilizers are the worst part of keyboards. You can build like a really nice custom keyboard, go through, do all this work, you know, pick a good PCB, pick a good custom key set, switches you love, a case you love, all that, and then you get done building and the stabilizers just sound like garbage. So I've basically taken, I've taken to using only Zilents screw-in stabilizers because they're the quietest that I've found. And I lube them with his Geek Hacks thick lube mix, because that again is like, has seemed to create the best feeling stabilizer that I've found. I've tried this thin lube and it just doesn't feel quite right. That's the Techies thin lube, I mean. And with and without Band-Aid mods. And so the thing that sucks about stabilizers too is that if you screw them up, there's really nothing you can do. Like if you build a whole board and then you're like, wow, these stabilizers sound awful. You're like, well, that's that. Because you're not going to take everything. I mean, you could, and plenty of people do, I'm sure, but I'm not going to desolder a whole board to try to fix a stabilizer sound. So I try really hard before I start soldering keys or soldering switches to make sure that I'm 100% okay with the way that the stabilizers sound, because there's no going back. And then, of course, there's boards where you can go back and there's just nothing you can do about it, like the awful K-type board, where that board is a complete hot swappable. It's all basically hole-tighted, and I went and took every single switch out and then lubed and Band-Aid modded their stabilizers, and they still sounded like absolute garbage. And the way that their plate is shaped, you can't easily replace the stabilizers. Like, I couldn't, at least with what I had on hand. So it just still sounded terrible. Alright, now I've heard some people put lube on the Band-Aids. That seems weird to me. I'm not going to do that. Okay, it's pretty simple. So, I'm going to try to actually save the rest of these this time. Well, this is all garbage, right? That's garbage. That one is not. As soon as I get done here, I'll find the other ones. I'm sure I always end up losing them right before I do a live stream, and then I find them right after. Okay. Now, let's just lube this, which is, where did I put that stuff? Oh, there's too many things in here. Okay. There we go. I do not like those little applicators. I just like art brushes better for some reason. Oh, hey, you know, I did that classic thing again. I never plugged this board in. This PCB. Make sure it works. Oh, and to do that, I need a USB-C cable, which thankfully was included. Just figure before I start actually going to town here, I should make sure this thing works. I haven't seen any reports of bad PCBs, I don't think, so. Oh, this is the fun part of having a Mac right now. It's like, now I need a USB to USB-C cable, which I've got here somewhere. Oh, for Christ's sake. All right, fine. We'll do it into this hub here. Come on, you bastard. There we go. Let's give it a shot. Ooh, it's a tight fit. Hey, look at that. Okay. So we have a functioning board. That's good. Boy, this has a really tight fitting USB-C slot there. Okay, cool. So let's set this aside. Let's just loop these real quick. Oh, I already put them together, didn't I? Well, at least I'm only having to do this for 2. So I want to hold tight that other board, and I want to put in the Zilents, and those need to be lubed. So it's like I have lubing 76 keys in my near future, or whatever, 70 keys, and I'm not looking for switches, and I'm not looking forward to that. It's like a thing I do at nighttime when everybody's sleeping, and I just sit in front of Netflix and lube switches. Okay, those. That guy. Where did I put the other? Okay, sure. Okay. And I just put a little on the wire where it's gonna rotate there. Okay. Okay, there's one. Two. Put this away. better storage solution for this brush, but whatever. Okay, let's make sure I put those in correctly. That one moves. That one moves. Moves. Good. And with only a minor amount of lubricant all over this mat, which is disgusting. Let's get rid of these. Well, that's good because I think that was my last 60. Oh no, I have more. Oh shoot. I don't remember if there was a revision in stable. That's fine. I will never notice the difference, I'm sure. I think there was a revision in the most recent round of stabilizers that Zeal did where he tweaked something to make the... Oh crap, I grabbed... Oh, that's fine. Where I think he tweaked something to make the wires less likely to pop out, if I remember correctly, and I don't think these are part of that revision. But that's fine. Shit, now I'm confused which ones I lubed and which ones I didn't. Those are lubed. Those are not lubed. These are lubed, so one of these should have screws in it. This does, okay, cool. Put these back in this. Next time, dude. There you go. And let's take the screws and stay out of this one. Okay. And then let's put these on. I always put them backward. For some reason, I always want the screw to be the big hole, but it's not. There we go. Okay. Oh, a lot of clearance here for this screw. Now, he did say specifically that this supported screw and stabs, so we're about to find out. Okay, good. Oh, this one's trying to run away. Stay in there, you bastard. There we go. Okay. Those look good. The classic, should I tighten more or do I risk over tightening? They move. That's what we want. All right. Now, I'm realizing he actually included LEDs for the 3 LED spots on the front here. So I had some, but I'll just use his. I think his are white as well. His are actually a different shape than mine, so I'm betting his will fit better. Cool. So the one thing I have to confirm is the layout of these before I start soldering, because I do not want to mess up this bit, but we can solder these 2 switches so that I can actually test it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's turn that guy on. And I don't think I have to do any bridging here. It doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, while that's heating up, take a break for 1 second and grab my Yuri keycaps so I can also verify the split space bars. I will be right back. All right. Solder in a couple switches and test it. Now there's one downside here, which is, oh, okay, these will snap. Felt loose, but I think they'll actually be fine. Let's give it a shot. this thing. Gross. Let's see if I can get it. It's kind of difficult to get a... You know what? I think I might need to throw a couple of other switches in here just to get a good fit here. Let's do the corners at least. That should be enough to hold it, although actually. So if this is going to be one, this has to be far right in this case. I ended up tarnishing this brass with how much I've touched it. Kind of a mistake. All right, let's see if I can get these all lined up. Pretty close. Cool. Okay, that's much easier. Now it's a flat surface across all of them, though. You know what? One right in the middle would be helpful here. There we go. All right, now it's a uniform surface. I think I've talked about this before in other streams that I've done, but I have a bit of an obsession with switches being absolutely flush to the PCB. So I kind of do a little bit of pressure here in the first few switches, usually at least in the corners, and I do a pass on just one of the two legs just to get it as tight, as flush as I can while putting a lot of pressure down, and then I can do the second leg without as much pressure. As even as possible without burning me. This is very difficult to put pressure down and also solder because it's like I'm using my pinkies as pressure while using only my finger, first and middle finger to do it, and I really don't want to touch the board or the soldering iron. There we go. Okay. And then the other two I don't have to push because it's already held in pretty good. Though this one doesn't look like it held in, but let's see. Okay. One more, and then we'll just test these. Make sure this... Okay. So... let's just see... the spacebar, the spacebar's kit. Which of course I've been using my Yuri kit as like a garbage kit, basically, just because it happened to be on my desk the last time I did a stream, so I was using it to test a bunch of stuff, and I've been using it on this little test board, so the keys are all over the place, or the caps are all over the place. So I'm gonna have to actually dig through a bin to find them all, but let's see. So we'll probably end up going with red. So what is this? 225 and 275. Okay. Let's try you. Oof. Sounds good. 225. Good. Yeah, God, they've got that classic crooked box thing. I really wish there was a way to solve that. Hard to show it, but let's see if I can. That's what I was talking about before. You can see that the key, if you push on it a little, you can get it to be flush. It's very minor, so it's totally possible that's not visible. But that's what happens with the box keys. They've got a lot of play like this. And that drives me nuts. That's too much. So in this case, that actually feels more like, on the 225, that actually feels more like a stabilizer issue in the sense that the stabilizers have too much play. They do have a lot of play. Okay, so remember earlier when I said, oh, I got the... It is a very nice plate, yes. The brass is very pretty. I'm fingerprinting the hell out of it right now, which is a problem. So I said earlier, oh, I have more recent stabilizers from Zeal that are a different revision, and maybe they fixed a problem, but I don't remember what it is. I'm wondering if this is the problem they resolved. No, it's not. All right, well, let's just keep going. I'm betting if this was a Zeal switch, this play wouldn't be as noticeable, but it's all good. I'll suffer silently with that. God, that's so much on the 225, on the 275. Yikes. But if we... Oh, that's very pretty. Like, when it's in here and all the other switches are here, I don't know if it'll be as noticeable. So, let's just try to build... Let's try to build the rest and see what happens. So, this one is Box Jades tend to stick. Oh, that's interesting. I had not heard that, actually. I have not had any box whites stick. Is that a Jades only issue? Because that would make me hesitant to stick with Jades here. I do have navies and I have whites. I love the whites, but the Jades are a little heavier. But I didn't realize that they tend to stick. I think they have the exact same... Really? Interesting. I thought they had the exact same stem. I thought it was just a spring difference. Well, now you're blowing my mind. So, we could just go with navies instead. They do have the same rotation issue, unfortunately, where they're just slightly askew. But... I was saying earlier that the navies felt too heavy for me, but actually this board might be a good test of a heavy navy because I'm not going to type on it very much, honestly. They are heavy as hell, though, comparatively. Sorry, I'm doing this off camera, but I have this thing set up with some Jades on the left and some navies on the right. Yeah, those navies are heavy. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't been paying attention the last couple of weeks since I got these Jades, so I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. Yeah, I kind of want to put Zilents in. The more I type on them, I kind of want to put Zilents in everything right now because they feel so nice. How many did I buy? I only bought 100. So if I put them in here, the 44 keys, I would end up being like 5 short. If I put Zilents in this board, I couldn't build the other board right away. I'd need to order more. That was dumb. Why did I buy 100? What did I use 100 for? I guess I was thinking I'll put it on one board, but even still, it's kind of silly. Well, now you got me questioning everything. Honestly, I do have a lot of box clickies boards right now. So I wonder, does Zeal have Zilents in stock right now? Because then I could build this with Zilents, and then I could just get more Zilents for the next build. He's already on round 10? What round was I in? Is this when are these shipping? Oh, man. It's not going to ship until April. Oh, I've given myself too many little decisions to make now. God damn it. I know why he does it, but I wish Zeal didn't only do group buys. Recently, it's always been group buys, so you have to wait longer. I should have just bought them for mass drop when he ran that. These are all bad decisions. Just across the board, I made bad decisions. All right, so if I build it with Zilents, oh my god, what do we do here? What do we do? I'm gonna look and see BOX Jades sticking. BOX Jades, let's try. You don't happen to have a link, do you? Hey, it's Ken. I'm just curious to see what people are saying about them. I could swear that the Jades, Navies, and Whites were all the exact same stem with a different spring. So it's very interesting to me. The Jades would stick. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Jades are the same. The Jades are the same spring as the White with a different click bar. I was under the impression this was the same click bar across the board, but a different spring. And the Navy are the same spring as the Pale Blue, but a thicker click bar. So these are actually thicker click bars than the others. So that would make sense why the Jade could potentially have its own problems. Interesting. Oh, one-up has them? The Zilents? I thought they only had the standard Zelios. Oh, they do. Look at that. Oh, they do. Okay. Did you just convince me to pull these out and use Zilents for this board? I think you did. I think you did. Okay. Now I gotta go get the solder gun, the desoldering pump or whatever the hell it's called. Hold on one sec. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Okay, sure. Why not? Why not? And now I'm realizing, wow, you've really set off quite a few things here, haven't you? Because now I got to change this thing that we're doing here, because we're going to do, let's see, we're going to do 67 gram Zilents. Okay, cool. So let's put that here. And then let's just confirm that actually worked. Yeah. Okay. And then that means I gotta change this guy. Boy, everything just fell apart, huh? I'm suddenly, I question everything. Got a desolder. Glad I only did 2 before that changed. That would have been much worse if I got halfway through and then you convinced me to change it. All right. Let's just refresh this guy. There we go. Okay, overlay's updated. I'll just, in the show notes for this, I'll just write, hey, it's Ken. Force me to question my choices. It's a good call. It's a good call. I'll use those jades for something else. Or I'll use the jades in a, once I build this hold tight board. That way, if they get stuck, I can just yank them out. Okay. So now I gotta desolder these sons of bitches. Should never clean this thing out. My least favorite thing is desoldering, so let's do it. Come on, you bastard. I need a better desoldering gun. I hate this one. It doesn't do a very good job of grabbing solder that's a little deeper in there. I need one of the ones that has a better silicone tip. Did I get all that one? No, I did not. Come on, you bastard. Hard to see in here. It's gonna be a mess. Let's see if I got that one. The problem with this soldering pump is that it doesn't get tight enough of a seal, so any solder that has made it through the pad to a little lower is very hard to get out. Come on. So if I do this without ruining these pads, there we go. I think I got that one. Where's my mouse? You bastard, which one's connected? It's so hard to see in here. The lighting in this room looks probably more bright on the stream than it actually is in the room. I think that one's loose. Pop out, you fucker. Do one more on this pad. Often what I found I have to do with this thing is actually add a little bit of solder and re-pump to get a better grab of it. Which is frustrating. That one I got. Okay. This one is still being a pain in my ass. Come on. Hard to see if that's solder or if that's the switch. Man, this thing does not want to come out. All right, first of all, let's take... It's clear on the left, it's just not coming out on the right. Where'd my tweezers go? There. All right, that one's loose. That one's loose. Why aren't you coming out, switch? I'm trying to think of what I could use for leverage here without damaging anything. There it goes. Come out of the... Come out of there. Just doesn't want to let go of the plate. Are you actually connected? I cannot tell. No, and no. So why won't you let go? Okay, good. That one's done. Let's see if I can get this one out. Oops. Jesus. All right. And if I ever had to sell a board, as long as I don't have to desolder, they're always beautiful. It's the desoldering that I'm just terrible at. Oh, cool. Thank you. I will check it out later. Let's try this again. I think this thing had a... Well, maybe not. Boy, with this one having the LED is like right in the way of getting this damn solder sucker in here. Come on. Alright, I think I got it that time. That one's loose. This one's so close. This LED is in the wrong spot to have to desolder this pad. I really don't want to damage that. There we go. Okay. All right, that took way too long. Now then, let's take all this junk here. Okay. Let's try this again. And now based on desoldering that, I'm also gonna immediately test that those keys actually work. Since I'm always terrified when I desolder something that I'm gonna break a trace or something. Definitely need to get a new desoldering bump. I keep seeing one pop up in GCAC threads whenever it goes on sale. And the last time I saw it, I added it to my cart on the website that it was selling on, and then I totally forgot. And I never checked out, so that was kind of pointless. All right, let's do Zilents. Get this out of my face. Bring these guys in. Get rid of these guys. All right. So 2 birds with 1 stone, which is that I hate the way that the box switches align their caps. So that's going to be resolved with this change. And also, I'm excited to use these, so this worked out. I did not order a Zephyr, no, I did not. I spend a lot of money on making keyboards. I've spent far more than I ever should have in probably across my entire lifetime already. But even still, when I looked at that board, I was a little like blown away by the price. And also, I can't remember what it is, but there's something about the layout that I did not like. I'm a Windows user, or I'm not a Windows user, So if I remember correctly, there was something about the layout that was not quite my kind of thing. I do have 2 of his 60 RGB board, PCBs. 2 of his 60 RGB PCBs, which I love. They're a little annoying to program though, because they use QMK, but through like, you could probably just go and, maybe this has changed, I don't remember, but when I first got the very first board, it was kind of frustrating because you had to use their little app that they built to load firmware, which was not great, but that may have changed. I don't remember. Oh, plus I also get the benefit here of these having correct feet for PCBs, which is nice, so they'll sit flush, unlike the box switches, which do not. Box switches just float around as you try to solder them. Yeah, see, the funny thing is I use HHKB almost all the time. I really like the layout, and I've gotten used to it, primarily because I used an HHKB for a long time. And so even when I do 60s, I just end up not using those bottom corner keys realistically because I put the control on where caps lock is. But when keyless can be odd because I use a Mac. You use Command Alt and Control a lot, and yeah, I think it was workable in his layout that he had. But when I looked at it, I just wasn't as huge of a fan. I don't know. Lately, I've not been as into kind of plain square 60s and plain square 65s and stuff. Like, I just want there to be something interesting. Like, part of the reason that I really like this 40 is because it was HHKB style, similar to the JD45 or whatever. I'm just looking at my wall as to what's up there. Like the X10 I was interested in, even though it's a 65 standard layout, just because it's an interesting piece. Like the board is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. The Zephyr just didn't do it for me. I was a little concerned the feedback initially seemed overwhelmingly negative. I think primarily because of price, which I don't know why that's a thing to complain about. Like, if you don't want to buy it because it's too expensive, don't buy it. I don't know why people had to go like, oh my god, why is this so expensive? Who cares? Like, you're a jerk. It doesn't matter. Don't buy it. These are custom pieces, like, I don't know. But for me, the price versus what was, layout-wise and everything just didn't really make a whole lot of sense for me personally. So I didn't get it. But I am interested to see what he does after this. I'm also really interested to see what this guy does, Kubicek. Because this is really well done, and I'm curious to see what he does if he does a 60 or whatever, which is sort of the next step usually that people do after they do something like this. But I don't know. I am in a weird spot with customs right now, where like I think some people get into it and then they get super niche, or they have like really specific desires. I don't really. It's mostly aesthetic for me at this point, because I don't know, they all type the same, so so for me, I can make any layout work technically, I guess, if I like the way it looks, and it's just Zephyr specifically. I don't know. It wasn't. I have an M65A, which I love, but I'm super excited. Honestly, the only other keyboard that's on the horizon for me right now, if the Accent ever ships, I'll build my Accent, but who knows. The only other keyboard really that I'm actually genuinely excited about is Rama's new M70, I think is what he's calling it. That looks super cool. I'm a huge fan of his design aesthetic, and I love the M65A. I have a couple of his little macro key pads and stuff, and I think it's the M70, I want to say. It's his new board design. It's supposed to launch this month, I think. That one I'm very excited about. Also, there's something about Rama's stuff where when he does his own manufacturing, not the TKL. So I didn't actually even notice the TKL, which I'm also kind of excited about because I haven't had a TKL in a long time. It's the, let's see, what is he calling it? So there's the TKL. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the M. It's the M60. I went the other way. It's the M60A, which has got like the weight is on the back edge, and it's HHKB style, and it looks like materials-wise, he's going to do a bunch of interesting colors. When he runs his own buys or his own stuff, things come out really, really nice. When he goes through mass drop, it gets mass dropped, and it. So like I have his, I forget whatever this one is called. So this was the one that. Oh, it's dusty. This was the one that mass drop did. I forget what this one's called. I don't remember. It's fine, but it's like anodization has stripes and stuff on it, and then if you compare it to the one he did himself. Jesus, there's a lot of dust on my desk. I didn't realize. This little guy, so first of all, these are both space gray. And you can tell which one is space gray because this is space gray. This is nonsense. This is silver. And they did a silver too, and it's like 5 degrees lighter than this or whatever. So his matches almost matches the MacBook Pro, which is why I wanted space gray. This doesn't even come close. This is ridiculous by comparison. But his manufacturing has been better every time. So I'm really excited that he's doing the M60 himself and not through Massdrop, because Massdrop just, it's no good. It's fine, but it's comparatively quality-wise. All right, these guys are working. This one seems... Just making sure that they're actually like flush, as flat as they can be. Yep, okay, cool. Let's, you know, I was gonna test these, but I have a feeling this board is flashed with the default layout, and I'm betting the default layout is not split, but let's just try it. Because I'd love to test these before I solder the whole board, in case I broke a pad or a trace there. Well, it's a good sign that the LED is still working. Let's see here. Let's open up a editor here. What do I think of his GMK key set? Oh, the heavy industry one? I don't like yellow. Okay, so I don't know that these are, I don't actually, this whole board might need to be flashed before it'll work at all because I'm not getting anything from any switches. I should just try. Oh, no, I am getting stuff from switches. Okay, so let me actually just try. Jesus, that's bright. Let me try shorting the, what would be the normal spacebar. Where are you? Yes, that is working. So I need to program it for those to work, unfortunately, so I can't test those. But we're gonna move forward. Because when I short, the stuff that doesn't need configuration, it's all working. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't like yellow generally. So, God, that's very tight. I don't like yellow, so that's an unfortunate thing. It's not like I hate yellow, I just wouldn't pick it, and yellow is obviously his color. I do like that the yellow is the smallest amount of highlight in that set, so it's not like the guy who did Nautilus, his new set, I forget what it's called, that he's group buying or interest checking right now, is like all the modifiers are yellow, so like that to me, I can't do. I'm curious to see if that set is done. I like it, it's very simple, but I kind of have like enough coverage of GMK with white and with gray that I don't know that I need another set that's just more white and gray, but I don't know. I guess I'll see when it's actually done. Yeah, yellow's not really my thing, but who cares? Or who cares? But who knows? It could be in this case. He has a way of making everything look pretty good, so it wouldn't surprise me if he managed to convince me that I want that set just with his aesthetic stuff. So, and it looks really, I'm very excited to see all the colorways that the M60 comes in, because one of the things I think that has happened in the community is that there's basically gray, there's black, There's usually like a red or a blue, and there's often now like a space gray. But a lot of times I don't like any of the colors for the colored version. So like the blue to me is almost never the color I would choose because it's like a either very vibrant or very pastel color. And the red is always like, you know, red. And like purple's not really my color. So it's been hard for me to buy any keyboard that isn't basically either black or space gray. The idea of him doing unique colors, like he has, I think he posted on his Instagram at one point as well. He's got kind of like this coral color that I think looks really cool. And he has like a forest green color that looks really cool. And I'm really excited about the possibility of colors that are not as bright and crazy. But I really like the idea of a TKL. I haven't had a TKL in forever. I've never built a TKL. I've only built the biggest board I built custom is a 65. And I don't really use arrow keys. I got used to using the 60. So I got used to using arrow keys differently. But I like the idea of a TKL, and it'd just be fun to build one. So I'm kind of excited about that. And again, anything he designs, I just aesthetically is my thing. I really enjoy his stuff. So, you know what? So I had this problem before. I'm gonna take these off. I had this problem last time I built a board where so in the past, I would never put all the switches in first, but then I had a problem with the last plate I had where I actually couldn't get switches through the plate. Okay, this is fine, but I'll just go ahead and put them all in. Oops, ouch. Yeah, I love the way Zeal switches. I've been using boxes for the last few builds I've done, and box switches don't have the little feet, so they don't really hold on to a PCB. And they're a real pain in the ass to solder because of that, because getting them straight is very difficult because they float around, but Zeal's got the Gateron feet, so they just sit flush and they don't move, which makes this so much faster and easier. And it's just a matter of making sure I get them all pushed in as far as possible. Also, I always forget every single time I don't build a board for a few months, I forget how much this hurts my thumbs. I always end these streams with like sore thumbs because I have all these little sharp bits constantly poking me. I'm also gonna have to do the legwork of converting this PCB to GMK, which I'll probably do off stream, honestly, because it's boring enough to watch somebody solder. It's even more boring to watch somebody change the firmware. Nobody wants to see that. I think last time I did a build, I did the firmware part on stream, and it was like, I don't know, 11:30. I shouldn't put that in there. 11:30 or 12:30 on like a Saturday night. One person watching the stream is so bad for them. Just watching me like tweak the key placements on like the last 3 keys that for some reason I was putting in the wrong spot because I forget what board that was. That was the DH60, which has a strange placement of it's like a Swiss cheese board, and the firmware, I could swear even now thinking back on it, is not accurately it did not seem like they were the accurate positions of the switches, but whatever, it worked. I'm just gonna confirm that these are in the exact right spot here. Sometimes when there's gaps in the board, it's hard to tell. Yeah, okay, good. All right, let's get this thing built. Good Lord. I don't even know how long this stream is so far, but it's too much time thinking, not enough time soldering. So I've now gotten into the situation where I've been trying to stream anytime I do a build, but streaming is a little tricky timing-wise for me because I have a 5-year-old and I have a 3-year-old and I have a job and all these other things, so it's hard to find the time where I can sit down in what really needs to be an empty house so you don't hear kids flipping out and find that time, but then also this takes forever. It's just, you know, it's like a couple hours each time to do a build. And so what ends up happening is I don't stream for weeks on end because I can't find the time, or I do find the time, but I'm just too tired to actually stream at, you know, midnight on a Thursday to build a keyboard. So I don't build anything. And that exacerbates the problem because now I've got this board, I've got the clip board to build with hole tights, and I've got that CZ96 to build for my sister. So now I'm 3 boards deep. And I was complaining before that the Accent hasn't shipped, but honestly, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because that would make it 4 boards to build. And then so then every time I think like, I'll just build this without streaming it. I'm like, well, it's kind of a waste of all this ridiculous setup that I put together. I might as well record it. And then I think, oh, well, I'll just build it and record myself building it. But then that sort of seems strange. At this point, it's a YouTube generation, right? Everything's supposed to be live. I'm not the YouTube generation, but the kids are. I don't even know what my kids will be, generation-wise. The YouTube generation's bad enough, honestly. What's next? God, they're too young. They won't be the Snapchat generation because that'll be dead and gone, I'm sure, by then. All right, now this one's gotta come out too. Oh man, it's a pain to pull these out once they're in. This is the downside of the Zeal feet. Oh God. Come out, you bastard. Oh, my poor hands. Let's see, what can I use to... So I can get a little leverage here. There you go. Come out, you... This is why putting all the caps in at once can be a pain, because I forgot to take this one out that's in the wrong spot, and now it's like there's so much tension. The board is, or the plate is so close to the PCB because it's held in with so many caps that like I have no leverage to get under this cap. So it's always amateur hour around here. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Just come out, you. I don't have time for this. Also, I have precious few Zilents, so I don't want to break this one. All right. And what I need is I need my... here we go. Let's see here. Boy, I cannot get enough leverage on this thing. Come out, you fucker. Oh my god. Ah, got it. Alright. Now, the question is, what was the layout there? So it's 1 and then 1, 2, 5. So it's going to be lined up perfectly on this one. That. And then 1, 2, 5 would have to be far right, right? Can't be anything else. I'll help if I put it in straight and not upside down. It's going to have to be that one, right? Let's try that. Do I have a 1, 2, 5? That looks like a 1, 2. Yes, correct. Okay. Then these bottom ones are 1, then 1, 2, 5, then 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. Okay. I assume that means this has got to be far right. That. And let's put a cap on there. Put this back on for a second here. This one too. And then that means this has got to be like right in the to the right. No, the middle. Hard to see. I think to the right. Yes. Okay. And on this side, it's 1, 2, 5 on the far end. Or sorry, 1 on the far end. So that's far like that. And I think also to the right. And to the right. Like that. So then we go 1, 1, 2, 5. Grab another 1, 2, 5. Like that. Cool. Okay. I think that's it. Just make sure they're all seated as tight as they can be. Make sure they're all actually sticking out as well. Song sounds like a truck is backing up in it. Good. All right. Just make sure these middle ones are as tight as they can be. All right. Let's do this. God, it's dark in here. Jesus Christ. favorite thing when I accidentally don't take the solder away and leave it stuck there. It's good stuff. One row down. I can hear my kids are home. So remember the first build that I did, every single solder that I did, I plugged it in and tested that I did it correctly. Because I was so nervous I was gonna fuck it up. Same thing the first time I had to desolder was like the most nerve-wracking thing. And after a while you start getting used to the fact that this is actually not nearly as fragile as it appears. It just seemed so fragile the first time I did it, like, oh god, I'll just burn everything. It's like, as long as you don't just stick the soldering iron up against the PCB for 5 minutes, you know? Which I guess some people do, because I've seen people post pictures asking why stuff doesn't work, and they've just melted their PCB, but like, one of those things where it's not difficult to learn, and it's kind of fun. People always ask, whenever I post pictures to Twitter of completed boards, people always say like, I want to get into this, where do I go to start? And I always, you know, point out the common places like, oh, go to Geek Hack or whatever, go to Mass Drop, Desk Authority, whatever. And the follow-up question is always, oh, am I gonna have to solder? And then if the answer is yes, people are like, nah, I'm out. It's just so strange. Soldering is like the least bad part of this whole process. Honestly, if anything should stop you from making custom keyboards, should be money, because it's insanely expensive. That and the fact that if you see something you like that's already built, except in rare circumstances, there's like a 99.9% chance you cannot build that board, because all that stuff that you see is gone forever. And so people are constantly asking me like, oh, where'd you get those caps? Or, you know, where'd you get that case? And it's like, sorry, I will tell you where I got them, but that's not gonna matter because you can't get them anymore, which is frustrating. I think for most people, it's frustrating for me. I mean, I still see stuff all the time where I'm like, damn, I wish I had done that. Or gotten in on that buy or whatever. Getting there. Just a few left. Put this thing together. Yeah, so I'll do the firmware part off stream because it's boring. But this board, its PCB is compatible with QMK. I think by default it ships with Bootmapper or something custom. I don't remember, but I know it's QMK compatible. So I just have to flash it over to that because that's what ideally every board uses QMK from this point on, basically. One, it's easy to just take my macros and stuff over. I don't actually really use macros. It's more the it's more the way that I do my arrow keys, which I use spacebar as a layer tap key. So it's like pressing spacebar once is space, but then if you hold space, I use holding space plus IJKL as my arrow keys, which I just got used to. I could never do the HHKB arrow keys. I don't know, something about that doesn't work for me. I think it's because it's reliant on your pinky, which I don't use a lot in typing in that way. So I just got used to space plus IJKL. And the nice thing is if anything uses QMK, I know for sure that I can port that over. Bootmapper does not support that type of key, unfortunately. So anytime I see Bootmapper, I get nervous. But lately, there's been a lot of efforts made by people in the community to port various PCBs from Bootmapper to QMK. Like I know the B-Mini stuff can now run QMK, which I actually keep meaning to try because I have a B-Mini and I think it's a B-Mini, whatever the 65% Win keyless one is. Win keyless as in the company, not as in the layout. And that runs Bootmapper, and that was my first custom that I ever built. And so back then I was not using, it was a 65, so it had arrows, an arrow cluster. But now that I don't use arrow clusters anymore, I haven't been able to go back to that keyboard because every time I do, I have a hard time typing or writing code because I got used to the arrows. So I keep meaning to go and test converting that to QMK, but I haven't found the time. Bootmapper is just fine if you want to do, just a kind of a standard layout, minimal layer stuff and macros, but QMK is just I prefer in general. Though I like Bootmapper's LED handling because Bootmapper will do like a visual LED handler, which is kind of neat, and QMK still has some strange LED support for underglow. Like some PCBs, you won't be able to like manually set the values to each without writing some C, if I remember correctly. But all right, last one. All right, good stuff. Now, since I'm going to do the firmware off stream, I can't really entirely test this, which is a problem. I also need to, it's kind of hard to do this without fingerprinting the brass up a lot, so the brass is kind of fingerprinted up. I'm gonna have to run a Q-tip between the things to clean it there. Now, let's just put this thing together so we can see what it looks like. Oh, right. I should do these LEDs. Now, do these LEDs need to be flush or do they need to sit high? Because I'm realizing they need to stick through the top case. Which means... Oh, well, right, this is a case top plate mounted, so never mind. Let's see. Positive. Positive and positive. Actually, we'll never use any of these, but I might as well do it since the case supports it. Oh, what a pain. This is the thing, is I really hate doing LEDs. They're just such a pain in the ass. Long ass stems and shit. Alright. Pretty close. All right, that's one. It's like no matter how you bend these things, I can never get it to stand perfectly straight while I'm. That's a little crooked. That's fine. As long as it fits into the case, I guess that's all that matters. No, and I just connected those two, so that's great. So now I have 4 pins all, or 3 pins all connecting. That's pretty stupid. Now I gotta pull that out of there. Okay, this song has my cell phone ringer in it. That's really annoying. Granted, my cell phone ringer is the Metal Gear song, so I guess kind of my fault, but still, that's really annoying. Let's try this again without shorting both at the same time. Okay, one more. I'll never use these. Num lock, caps lock, swirl lock. I'll never use these. You know, I think my caps lock is gonna be too crooked here. It's a little straighter now. I don't know how people do this with a whole board. I would never in a million years do this. It's such a pain in the ass. There it is again. That's really annoying. All right. And once again, I'm gonna have to straighten that one. Well, at least they're easy to straighten. Let's see if that fits in the case. Yeah, cool. All right. I wish I don't have a good way to test these before clipping them. Maybe I'll get lucky and they're default on. No, they won't. That's annoying. And there's nothing. I don't have a good way to test those. I'm hesitant to clip them until I test them, but I can't close the case, so screw it. You know what, actually what we'll do temporarily, well, that's not good. I actually don't have my clippers here anyway. Let's see. All right. It's looking pretty good. There's a little bit of flexibility there, but, or a little bit of a bowing to the thing, but it should be fine once I actually screw it in. There we go. It's Zilents, 67 gram Zilents on the brass plate. So I'm gonna clean it up. I will firmware program it off stream, and then I'll do another quick stream to finish it up, put it all together, put the caps on, give it a test run. And yeah, we'll do that again maybe later tonight or tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out, and I'm excited to type on this thing. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So I will I'll see you next time. Thanks.